in the car and it's
No, that sounds great. That sounds great.
oh, okay. Okay, cool.
How you doing?
Really?
You're just getting out of work now?
Yeah, just getting out of work. Got about an hour drive home, so I'm just kind of cruising. Um,
Yeah, sounds
nice
great.
drive, you know. Yeah, yeah. So it's just kind of be cool to chat for a little bit. I know you can't stay up super late to talk with West Coast people, so
Mm-hmm.
at least it's better than nothing. But yeah, I probably have to apologize a little in advance because I'm going to be a little more of the table flipping Jesus Christian
Mm.
because I don't know, something a little bit of that interaction with your community yesterday just kind of like ignited an old kind of fire, which kind of reminded
Mm.
me like, you know what? Now I kind of remember why I not didn't really like trans activists very much. You know, they're not. Um, it's this gatekeepy, like you can't tell jokes, you can't make fun of us type of thing. Like that basically, well, you can, but you can't do any of that without being labeled a transphobe or a hateful bigot or something like that. And it's something I have a problem with because I can make fun of Christian people, I can make fun of, like right wingers and stuff like that. I'll never get that type of hate and backlash. They may not like it,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, they would still die for my right to do it.
Yeah, so I think that's a great place to focus the conversation on the state of comedy. You know, how is comedy related to politics? If it, is it whatever? All these questions. I think this is something I've been very interested in a long time. Um, do you want to start with just saying what what your experience was last night, and then I can say from my perspective. Just I came, I opened my Discord at some point and I saw there were a whole bunch of messages back and forth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, basically, it's just kind of, some things just never seem to change. It's this type of attitude of like gate. It's either gatekeeping or saying that basically because I have an argument that may like against the the stance of like the trans activists that I'm basically a transphobe and it doesn't need to go any further than that. Even if I have a good argument, like my argument was that um, comedy is subjective and you can't police comedy or tell people what is or isn't funny because that's just not how it ever works. And they basically were like, well, that's not up for debate. I'm discontinuing any engagement. And that's just kind of par for the course when it comes to trans activism. It's always that way. There is no good faith debate to be had when you're talking about edgy humor or humor in general or
Hmm.
comedy, because it's either you're a hateful bigot or you're an ally, and I just disagree.
Yeah. So
And I don't
oh
think
yeah, please
I,
go
I
ahead.
don't think they're winning anyone over. That's the
Hmm.
that's the biggest part is that I feel like trans activists are really ruining. They're really hurting trans people, like the everyday normal trans people, because they come off like complete narcissistic psychopaths, and that's they're the loudest, most public display
Whoa.
of trans people, like because that's too.
Narcissistic psychopaths. Um, that's a pretty that's a pretty
That's going to be
extreme
like, whoa,
thing
this is the
to call
the ally of
somebody,
the trans.
right?
Like, okay, see, that's another thing is that I don't feel like when I've listened to our past conversations, I feel like kicking myself in the nuts because
Mm.
I am tiptoeing so hard
Hmm.
and being
No,
being so
I'm not.
charitable.
I'm not saying you shouldn't say that or that you're a bad person for saying that. I'm just highlighting that's your personal reaction to that, or that's how you would
It's my
label those
personal
people
experience.
as your personal experience. And yeah, I mean, do you see that there's a little bit of parody there maybe? So they're labeling you a transphobe, and you feel very hurt by that and feel like that's bullshit, and
No,
it's
not
weird
hurt.
to.
I wouldn't say hurt.
Mm,
I would just say that it is not the way to have this discourse around this
mm.
topic, because
You
you're
feel that
not
it's
going to
unhelpful.
attract. It's not helpful. It's not
Hmm.
helpful to whatever you're trying to accomplish for trans people. This is having the opposite effect. That's
Hmm.
my argument.
Do you feel like that you labeling the people who are labeling you psychopaths, or sorry, transphobes, for um, do you feel that calling them narcissistic psychopaths is helpful, or is that more of like a gut reaction that maybe you wouldn't, if you were trying to be diplomatic, you wouldn't say that, but that's what it feels. That's like what it feels
They've
like.
already. The problem is they've already called me a transphobe, so that
Hmm.
bridge has already been burned.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah, why do I owe them like a
Huh.
good faith engagement when I've already been labeled that way? How is the, am I just, I mean, of course that would be the Christian thing of me to
Hmm.
do, is to just the other cheek or whatnot, but I
Hmm.
mean, these people are inconsolable. I'm never going to bring them over to my side. They've already decided that me telling jokes or making fun of trans people is transphobic, so it's like where they're never going to change their mind there. So what recourse do I have? I just have to rule them out as that no productive conversation can come from these people.
I mean, this is interesting because, and I'm not saying that you're necessarily wrong in this case or in general or whatever, but it's interesting because it does mirror, um, the kind of things that I would imagine people would say about me talking to you. That if you defend, jokes potentially at the expense of trans people, then you're someone who can never be reasoned with, someone who no good faith, whatever. But this is our fourth conversation. I feel like, they've all been like very amicable, very productive, and I've kind of, I've ruled off writing people off, right? I've ruled out writing people off. I'm not saying that I believe that, I'm Jesus and I can talk to somebody and magically, get them to consider a new life or something like that, or,
Yeah.
or that I'm trying to do that. But
Well, I get what you're saying,
yeah,
but let me put it to you this way. If
yeah.
I were to just come to you and say, well, my Christian beliefs is basically that
Mm,
trans people are evil and they're going to hell, would you
mm,
say that there's like much conversation left between us, like that we could make a production, like will it be a productive conversation from that point on, or like in that statement, in that situation, I'm
mhm,
just a stubborn person that's so set in my ways that what what could you do at that point? I'm not saying that
mhm,
you would write me off or whatever, but I wouldn't blame you if
mm,
you were to just write me off and say,
hmm,
well, this person is obviously, you know, set in this mode and never changing their mind.
mm,
So what use is this conversation, right? That's the exact same type of feeling I have when people are calling me a transphobe and they don't
mhm,
even want to have the conversation around comedy and jokes and anything like that. They've
mm.
already cut to the end of it and said, "This is
Right.
my judgment.
of
You're a
of you
transphobe,"
as
and
an
that's the
entire
end.
person, rather than even saying, if somebody said, I feel like it's not great to say jokes like that because they could be really hurtful. If somebody said that, what would your reaction be to that? Just to gauge.
I, yeah, I would just say, well, unfortunately, or fortune. I mean, the thing is with comedy is that it's subjective. That's
Hmm.
basically what I would say.
So maybe it could be useful just to look at the specific example, since this happened. This happened just last night, and there was this. I don't know if I could say it was a big blow up. It was a little blow up. So back and forth between you, other members of the community. The
You're cutting off a little bit.
Oh, yeah, can you hear me? Okay. Testing. Let's see how we're
Yeah,
doing.
just a little.
Okay. Oh, let me
Okay,
turn
I
off
hear
my
you now. I hear you.
let me turn off my video to you. That'll be a lot less bandwidth. Hopefully, it'll be more stable.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Um,
All right.
so the initiating event of this, um, so there was some relatively innocuous back and forth, and then things exploded. The first thing that I saw was you posted this image. I'm guessing off of Twitter or something. I don't know where it originated, but it was
Yeah, it was something I saw. I didn't know. Yeah.
yeah, and it was saying it was a statement. Let me pull it up. A statement saying um, Leah Thomas. Um, where is it? Leah Thomas is considering retirement since they took my medals. I don't have the soul to fight anymore for justice. And then somebody, responding to that news story, if I can't cheat, I quit. And then,
Right.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
what happened next is I just googled that, and it turns out that none of that happened.
So there was no comment by Leah Thomas saying that I'm going to retire because
Mhm.
blah blah blah. Like the whole thing was fabricated.
So she didn't make those comments about her trophies being taken away, and her trophies weren't taken away. So every
Okay, so
piece
the
of
whole
it
thing was
was
made up.
entirely fabricated. It was a fabrication on top of a fabrication on top of a fabrication. But what I realized when I did that very very minimal fact checking is that not only so the Leah Thomas story where right she tied with the cis woman, and that cis woman was
Yeah.
very upset. She's like, that should have been my whatever, my place. Do you know what place Leah Thomas tied this other woman for?
Not
Oh, oh
particularly.
yeah.
I never
Um,
really like the placings and stuff like that weren't really important to me
hmm
in that case. Like I heard that what improved dramatically was her national ranking.
Wait,
So when the
you
when
said that
your
you don't
national
care about the
ranking
places. You
goes,
mean you don't care about those individual rankings? You care about the totality? Is that
yeah, I don't
just to
I don't
clarify?
care about I don't really care about the individual like
Mm-hmm.
certain races or whatever. I
Sure.
mean, the thing is, that's not where the issue lies for me. But I mean, if women want to bring up, hey, look how much higher she is on the national ranking as a woman
Mm-hmm.
than he was as a man, then I would say, okay, well, that's an interesting point, and you could use that to make your argument. But
Mm-hmm.
my argument never really has been on placing
Mm-hmm.
particularly.
Sure. This isn't
Yeah.
necessarily. This is
Or
maybe more
foremost.
tied to the broader conversation where Leah Thomas has been brought up as the exemplar of why there's this great harm being done to cis women. So the place that she tied this other woman for in the swimming competition was for fifth place, which
Okay.
never came up in any
So
of those
if she
articles. It
didn't,
was presumed that it was first place because it was never mentioned. That's the kind of right. If somebody says, "Oh my God, I tied, I should have won," but won fifth place, that's definitely
well,
interesting.
I mean, typically, I only know from my experience in the FGC, when you tie, like, there's always going to be a tie for fifth place.
Hmm.
Um, so when if you win, beyond fifth, but from fourth place to first, those are the only placings where nobody ties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't know
Yeah.
how it's done in that sport or whatever, but I mean,
Mm-hmm.
would she have tied with Leah Thomas if Leah Thomas was not in that race? I think
Well,
that's
of
the
course, of
spirit
course,
of her
no
argument.
one would have tied with Leah Thomas if Leah Thomas weren't in that race. Of course, she wouldn't have
Yeah,
any
I think that's
placement if she
kind of
weren't
the
there.
point she's making.
Mm-hmm. Um,
I think that's the point she's making. But I mean, if we were kind of we kind of trailed off from.
yeah, yeah. So to bring that back
Yeah.
around, so Then me and somebody else were saying, somebody else said, yeah, this is incredibly common. That I was saying this is revealed, another lie on top of these two other lies. Um, Someone else was saying this is incredibly common, and I was bringing up the shameless comments obsessing over whether Michelle Obama is a man because she is black and has toned
Oh
arms,
yeah.
misogynoir, and that's when you chimed in. You mean Big Mike? My circle likes to troll that she's a man. People just overreact,
Yeah.
so it makes it more fun to do
Right.
lol.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Absolutely.
I certainly remember being an edgy kid. Me and Lilith we're talking earlier about spending time on 4chan. I spent a decent amount of time on 4chan as a kid.
Oh really? I've never been on 4chan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I certainly understand the appeal of when you say stuff and you can get people to react and they're upset because of what you said, and that just makes it more fun. I remember what that was like as a kid.
Yeah.
And then
Well, not
at
only
a certain
that, well,
point,
it's also because Michelle Obama, she's very large and she's got broad shoulders, and there are pictures with from a long, long time ago of Obama posing with a friend or something, and named Michael, and it looks very much the same face as Michelle Obama.
oh, I
And
see. Uh-huh.
it's just yeah. It's really funny. There's no records of Obama. Like nobody ever came out to say like, oh, me and Obama had relations. Like it's funny that
Say,
almost every president before has
huh.
been accused, even falsely, of like having relations with another woman and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And so we make like these tongue-in-cheek jokes about like, oh, Big Mike or whatever, and memes where she's got a big like penis outline coming out of her dress and stuff like that. Like that's all funny stuff because like she's kind of built a little bit manly, and it's just something that pisses people off. Like it's funny when it gets a reaction,
Yeah.
but it's even funnier. Yeah, so you get it, like, and that's what it is. That's
Yeah.
all it is for me.
So I get it, and I definitely enjoyed that, especially as a kid, or just trolling.
I'm
although
hearing the underline.
right, but there's I think you know what I'm going to say, which is that at a certain point, right, when I was a child, I thought and spoke as a child, and actually,
I am very much still a child. At heart.
Yeah, and so
clarify that.
this is interesting. I mean, I had a really good conversation with Lilith earlier today, Catherine and chat, who we were talking about the being forced to let go of childish notions of fun. I was talking about that I enjoyed
I don't like
skipping.
I don't like that word forced. Being forced to let go of.
Well,
anything.
sure,
Like,
being shamed, being shamed into, oh, why do you still like something, some media that was like, this is for kids or whatever, right? But I mean, do you recognize that that there are maybe some reasons to at least be thoughtful about it, pressured. I'm not saying that because you liked something as a kid and now you're an adult, you can't enjoy it anymore. That would be ridiculous, right? I'm not saying that at all. But is it worth thinking about, if you enjoyed kind of just getting a rise out of people for what they said, is it worth thinking about, is there any merit to what they might be saying? Rather than simply saying, well, I don't see why they're so upset. They're getting really upset, and that's fun for me. And just kind of leaving it at that. Are you interested in understanding if there might be anything to that?
I definitely would take that on a case-by-case basis, for sure.
Yeah.
If you give me an example of that, I'll tell you whether or not I would restrict myself or not.
So
if I was talking to my boss you know, or I would not make the same jokes I would make in front of my friends or a total stranger.
For sure.
Like I know, yeah, I have tact. I know, like
Yeah. No,
when
I'm
and
not.
when not.
No, I'm not talking about tact. It's more about like, so, um,
You need to get me to care. You would need to make me care about a certain situation for me to refrain. Because if I feel like I'm getting no, like, it, if I feel like there's no real like consequence to it, even if I feel like there's an artificial consequence to it, I'm gonna still think it's wrong, and that I should just make fun of you even more for it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, if it were the case that these types of jokes normalize a culture which enacts violence on particularly trans women, particularly black trans women, if those things were tied together, if it did have that impact, would that be something that you would care about?
If those things were directly tied to each other, I would. But they're not. Yeah, that's my problem, is that like making jokes about black people doesn't lead to lynching in my world. You know, and it just does not. So it's all okay. Like, it's kind of like the creators of South Park said, like, no, we're not going to stop making fun of crippled people. It's either all okay or none of it's okay.
Yeah. Well, they did. So there's one joke I can think of, or one, you know, running joke episode that I can think of that they apologized for, which was the man bear pig. I don't know if you remember what that was.
Really? Because they brought the man bear pig back. So what
they,
part of
they,
that?
They brought it back in order to repudiate their prior stance that they made with it.
Which was
so the original Man Bear Pig episode was was attempted to be relatively lighthearted. They weren't necessarily trying to make a massive stand with it. But it was a response to Al Gore's An Inconvenient Truth, where he was bringing up this research around fossil fuels and carbon and the greenhouse effect.
A movie that's been historically proven wrong, which is funny. It makes the episode even more funnier for me. But yeah, go ahead.
Interesting. So their kind of takeaway was like, this guy's super alarmist. What if we made we made, you know, just this satirical episode about this guy who's so alarmist, and he's alarmist about something silly, and he's a silly guy, and he's really upset about something, and he's taking life really seriously, and it'll be fun to make fun of him. That was basically their response. And then later they said, oh shit, he was actually correct. Climate change is an issue. You know, he was being alarmist he was actually, you know, he was crying wolf, but there was really a wolf. and we, you know, it was kind of foolish of us to make fun of somebody crying wolf if there is actually a wolf. Right. And so they brought it back.
Interesting. I mean, I would have to look into that to see.
Yeah, they
But
talk about it very, very directly. I can find you the interview if you want.
But did they pull the episode out?
No. So they made a new episode where there actually is a man bear pig, and he's actually attacking people, and it actually is a problem. Right. So they went further with the joke in order to repudiate the original point. But the interesting thing with that is that the fact of the matter actually made them decide what they wanted the outcome of the joke to be. So the outcome of the joke wasn't some kind of random or subjective thing. They actually predicated whether there was a man bear pig and Al Gore was alarmist or like telling us something important. They predicated that on the truth of whether what he was saying was a real thing. So the truth value of you know, climate change in this case, or man bear pig in the satirical analogy, the whether or not there is actually a man bear pig makes the person who is making these statements, the alarmist statements, whether he's the butt of the joke or the people who didn't believe him, or maybe in this case just kind of like, okay, it's maybe we had good reason not to believe him because it sounded really out there and it turned out to be true, and maybe none of us is really like the bad guy. It's just kind of a, it's just one of those situations.
Yeah, no, that's all fine. But my point is that they never pulled the man bear pig episode. They still stand
that's fine.
behind it enough. So it's still not analogous. I think we need to find something else to be, a better analogy.
So the interesting thing. So I feel like most jokes, and actually, Christopher Hitchens affirmed this, that a good joke should be long and it should be at someone's expense. And I think that's fundamentally true. I think there's some great one-liners, so maybe I don't agree with that. But I think in general, a lot of good jokes are at the expense of something. There's some absurdity that's being highlighted. It's like you can't make a joke that doesn't have any point. Or you can. It's tough. Some people can do it. Some people are really good at just making jokes out of, it feels like almost nothing, and there's really no like target per se. But most jokes are, they have some kind of statement behind them. You've heard the phrase like, oh my God, comedians are the modern philosophers, right? There's a lot of people who see, oh my God, they're the one person telling it like it is in our society, right? It feels like comedians and comedy and jokes aren't just this kind of dumb, meaningless thing that doesn't have anything to say about the world. There's some content to them. There's some material to them. There's some viewpoint about the world that is being affirmed or repudiated or questioned or whatever. They are doing something, right?
There can be, yeah.
Yeah. So with something like, so maybe this is a good contrast actually. So I went to a comedy show. That was last night, and I was coming back from it, and saw this whole Discord thread. Have you heard of Farmer Michael?
No, I don't believe so.
He's it's this Irish comedian. He's always like in a car having some kind of like kind of rant, skit, whatever. His wife is asking him, now that the referendum has passed in Ireland, referendum to have gay marriage, do you think that you'll get invited to any gay weddings? And he says, there's no gays in Ireland, Kathleen. And she's like, well, what about Bobby up the road? It's like, oh, Bobby's not gay. He's a dancing man. He's a dancing man. What about Graham Norton? Oh no, he's an entertainer. He's a flamboyant man, but he's not gay. And it's like the thing that's funny. Okay, obviously he's just a hilarious person. He has like a kind of charisma and a kind of physical comedy and everything that heightens everything. But the viewpoint about it that's funny is that it's like, okay, for somebody to truly believe that no gay people exist, for somebody to be so closed into their worldview, as it's kind of a caricature of farmers that in Ireland, that they're just kind of off on their farm, they don't really know what's going on in the world, they're very like closed-minded, whatever. I guess that's a especially Irish stereotype, whatever. And so it's kind of making fun of this idea of a person who is so kind of shut in their own little world, and so oblivious and so kind of unaccepting of the existence of gay people or people being gay, in Ireland, that they're just, rejecting the truth in front of their eyes. And among other things, that's kind of the crux of the comedy. It's not the only thing that's funny about it, but that's the viewpoint that if it were the case that he was saying like, oh, I really don't think that there are gays in Ireland, that's a made-up American thing, this is bullshit, gay people don't exist, it would have a really different feel to it, right? The jokes would
Ignorance,
land very differently.
ignorance can be very funny. Like
Yeah.
if I hear Uncle, are you familiar with the Boondocks?
Oh yeah. You're gonna
Uncle
say
Ruckus.
Ruckus. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Uncle Ruckus is hilarious to listen to, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. When I laugh at Uncle Ruckus telling jokes, I'm not laughing at it saying like, "Oh, everything he's saying about black people is true."
Mm-hmm.
I'm laughing at the abhorrent ignorance in his statements and just how ignorantly racist he is.
Mm-hmm.
That's the comedy.
Yeah.
That's where the comedy
And
comes from.
the irony
Yeah,
of somebody who is so so racist against black people, and that he doesn't even realize or accept that he's black.
no, that's
Right.
Reeville-Aligo. Yeah.
Um, and so, but if the viewpoint of the show were the fact that if the viewpoint of the show were like, oh yeah, black people are inferior, then it wouldn't be, you could probably make something funny out of it, but just that as it was wouldn't really be like a funny thing, because
Now, to be clear, the show has in some ways said black people are inferior, not in like any kind of genetic way, but in cultural ways.
well,
It makes that joke.
it's critiqued certain aspects of Black American culture for sure, but from an
Yeah.
internal very very heartfelt way. It's certainly
way
not
that
it's certainly
a lot
not the kind of like, oh, black people have genetically lower IQ or anything like that.
No.
That's absolutely not where it's coming from.
It's not. No, it doesn't say it in that way. It says
Mhm.
it in the way of like, hey, you know what? There are some areas where we could really afford to get our shit together. That's
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, like
It's an internal
I don't know
community
if-
self-critique.
One of my favorite episodes of the Boondocks is the one where he has this hypothetical of that. What if Martin Luther King didn't actually die from his gunshot wound? What if he was just put into a coma and then he woke up today and then he saw the state of black people today? That's one of my favorite episodes. Because at the end of the episode, he gets up on the podium in the church and he's like disgusted because all the black people are like twerking and acting a fool, and goes on this long diatribe about how like, oh, and he's using the N-word a lot, and he's basically saying like, oh, you guys hate to be on time, you hate to read books, like basically like saying, I didn't take all these ass whoopings so that you people can act this way. Yeah. So he was really, it was that type of critique. And it wasn't saying that black people are inferior, but it was definitely saying that, hey, we hold on to some very, very inferior cultural norms that we need to get rid of. Yeah.
And so the thing that I feel like is a really useful exercise, thinking about like, what is the viewpoint of a joke? Because we said, most jokes do have some kind of viewpoint. Is it's like if you were watching the Boondocks, and have you had this experience where it's like you're watching, I don't know, whatever it is, TV show, stand up, something, and you could kind of tell not just that somebody's laughing, but like how they're laughing at it. So actually, somebody brought up Chappelle. Chappelle stopped doing comedy for a while, partly because he was realizing that the jokes that he was telling that were critiquing from within aspects of Black American culture, where the way that a lot of white people were laughing at them was like, wow, like black people are so fucked up or whatever, like laughing at black people instead of like, yeah, okay, you're right, we should kind of get our shit together. And I don't know if you've ever had the experience, if you can imagine that feeling of what it would be like to watch Boondocks with somebody, and the way that they react to Uncle Ruckus is like, oh my God, yes, so much truth. Thank you. Finally, and even a black guy who's able to figure out that, you know, black people are just gonna be inferior, and they are inferior, and they should be inferior. Like if you were watching with somebody like that, it probably wouldn't be that fun to laugh together with them, right? Because you'd be like, wait a minute, that's not why I'm laughing at this. That's not what we believe, right? We don't believe that black people are actually inferior. We're laughing at somebody who's like, it's crazy how racist this guy is, right?
You're right. Yeah. I mean, I can't say I personally had that experience, but it's I don't know. Like I just haven't been around those types of people, I guess. Like where it's kind of. I mean, I've met people before where it's kind of like they really judge black people harshly, and I just disagree with them. And I'm just like, well, that's not how I see it. And like, you know, I've known people. I've talked to very like far right people who believe that, yeah, you know, that black people are just genetically inferior, and I always push back saying it's not the genetics that make them inferior. It's just the culture that they come out of, because you can find plenty of, you know, smart, very intelligent black people. Like you can't judge them. Like you can judge every person individually. Is that we would never judge a whole group by you know, whatever standard, but I mean, you could judge a culture, but you just can't judge an entire group of people.
Right. And so thinking about that kind of like if you were watching with somebody who, you know, who felt this way. So obviously if you're with those people who literally, you know, felt that black people were genetically inferior, it probably wouldn't be so much fun watching like a Boondocks or watching, you know, an Uncle Ruckus heavy episode of the Boondocks with them, because like you'd be like, bro, what's wrong with you? You like, it's fucked up, and it's crazy that you actually truly believe this. Like we're not like,
for me, I would just be like, you're just kind of silly, you know, like you're just for me, those type of people are like, I make fun of them because they're ignorant, right? Like they're just, I can just judge you as an ignorant person and be done with it. I don't have to feel uncomfortable or feel like any type of, like, it doesn't affect me, right? I'm just going to be like, well, you're just kind of an ignorant dumbass, and that's it.
Right. So thinking about that in terms of the joke about Michelle Obama actually being a man, like not only does she have like nice broad shoulders, she's literally a man, and Obama is on the DL, and right, you know, there's never been any he's never had any scandals of some woman saying that, you know, and he had an affair with her. Like maybe he's gay and maybe she's a man. What would you say in terms of the proportion of people who make those kind of jokes? What proportion of those people like Obama as a president?
Like or voted for?
Let's say like preferred Obama over, you know, somebody who was running against other times, whatever.
Ran as president a long time ago, and there are plenty of people just like me who may have voted for him, and then, you know, as they got more educated as time went on, may have changed their opinion about him.
Okay, so maybe mixed, maybe voted for him and then voted against him. I guess maybe it's not so simple. What proportion of those people think that it would be perfectly okay if Michelle Obama was trans, or if Obama was gay? What percent of people who make that joke think it really wouldn't matter about anything?
What do you mean?
So if it turned out that it was in fact, in reality, true that Michelle Obama was trans, or
Michael,
or that Obama is gay, even though he wouldn't be gay for being with a trans woman, but, you know, people might see him that way, right? If either of those things were true, what percent of people who who you would typically think of as making jokes like that would think that it's no big deal. It doesn't matter if somebody's gay. It doesn't matter if somebody's trans. It literally makes no difference to anything.
I don't know. I'm not a mind reader. I really can't give you a real answer there, because there's no way I can know. There's just no way.
I mean, so this is interesting. I guess maybe I'm revealing more about myself here. My mental image of somebody. Oh, sorry.
What really stuck out to me was when you said just now that it doesn't make you gay to be with a trans woman. Like, sure. I think we just disagree there, but.
Oh, sure. I mean, so right, so. I mean, So clearly it makes a difference. It makes a difference to you if somebody is married, if somebody is a cis man married to a trans woman, you see that person as, would you say gay or like kind of gay, or I don't know, how would you qualify that?
I would say not straight.
Not straight. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. There might be some. There might be some trans people who might agree with you. I don't know, but I don't know. Would you say that he's gay?
He's definitely more gay than he would be straight, for sure.
Interesting. Okay, so
he would be definitely gay if you had to make me choose one. I would choose.
If I made you binarize it, you okay. So more gay than straight. Okay. So yeah. I mean. To you, clearly, this is interesting. Okay, this is kind of a side. But this is actually just an interesting question. What do you think about Buck Angel? If you were attracted to Buck Angel, would that make you more straight than gay?
I don't know who
Buck Angel. Buck Angel, one of the most, I would think one of the most famous and certainly one of the most pioneering. Trans people. They're a trans man. They've been a porn star for a long time. Outspoken trans rights advocates, but also has taken a lot of flack from a lot of other trans people for being on the more quote unquote trans medicalist side. So they say transsexual rather than transgender. They're from an older generation and from a different kind of ideological perspective. We can get into all of that, but have you ever? I guess you probably can't look at like a photo right now. I can send you later, and you can tell me. But they look like a big beefy, or he looks like a big beefy like Hell's Angel, basically.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Would you say that being attracted to him is like makes you more you'd be more hetero than gay if you were into okay, looks like a big buff dude but has a vagina? Would you say that makes you more straight than gay if you were a man?
Does it make? I mean,
I'm just curious where you're kind of like instinctual, how these things kind of fall.
So it's like, okay, you could say like a doll is attractive, but there's no way I could ever have intercourse with a doll. I mean, there's I mean, you could look at attractiveness objectively without being personally there's a deal breaker for me, and the deal breaker is whether or not you're a biological man or a woman. Obviously, because I could look at other men and say like I'm not afraid to call someone handsome. I don't think it makes me gay to recognize a handsome person. Otherwise, how would I would have been terrible at choosing my wingman when I was single, right?
Sure. You need to be able to evaluate that.
What's that?
Yeah. For a wingman, it's helpful to be able to evaluate, how attractive another man is to help help kind of boost yourself up. Although maybe maybe you want to go the other way and have a less attractive wingman so that you look better.
Yeah, I mean, you could judge the
but
aesthetic. Like if
it's useful to know,
if
right?
I go, yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I can look at looks separately from what their sex is. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but when I'm talking about like attraction and sexual relations and things like that, now you're getting into a different category where you're crossing a boundary into one way, like one path or another. Either you're gay or you're straight.
Mm-hmm. Sure, but for Obama, if Michelle was trans, you said relatively quickly, more gay than straight. But for Buck Angel, and I know you haven't seen a photo, but like if I were to ask you to imagine the most like just
Like,
masculine,
for,
beefy, looks like a Hell's Angel man,
yeah, yeah,
and has a vagina. Like you'd be imagining Buck Angel. Like there,
okay,
if you were to imagine, like taking that to the extreme, that's Buck Angel in reality, right?
yeah. I guess I just don't really know what you're asking.
So, yeah. If a man is attracted to Buck Angel, does that make them um, more straight than gay because he is biologically female?
Depends on the reason why you're attracted to them. If you're
Interesting.
attracted because you believe, if you're let's say if you're a gay man and you're
Hmm.
attracted to Buck Angel and you believe 100%, like you don't know this person, right? You just
Sure.
it is presenting as a man, looks like a big burly, a nice looking bear to you.
Hmm.
So that's all you know. At that point you probably are attracted, but you don't know what's downstairs. So that's
Hmm.
part of the equation.
Sure. Okay. What if that was the case for Obama with Michelle? Would you reverse your answer then?
Like, where are you saying he doesn't know there's a penis down there, or what do
Sure.
you mean?
Sees her in a bar, thinks, "Oh, that's just a cute, I guess, cis lady." If he's concerned about that,
Uh,
and that's his initial attraction.
well, I don't know. I mean, it'd be hard for me to look. She's not exactly the most like feminine looking woman, so
So, wait. So just to clarify, to back up, it, stop me if I'm wrong, but it kind of feels like you're saying that um, whether or not Michelle Obama is trans. I mean, uh, just to ask, you don't believe that she actually is trans, right? You don't think that she literally is like born a male, transitioned invisibly somewhere in life.
I have no way to prove one way or the other. I just know it's a funny joke because it could be true.
Okay, so it's not like it's like, oh,
Like
there's a kind of
the
things that makes this
possibility of
like, yeah.
the possibility of her actually being a man makes the joke a lot funnier.
But that possibility isn't like, oh, it's like 0.01%. It's like, I don't want to put an anchor, framing on for it, 20%.
Yeah, even if it's 20 or 30% true,
30%.
like possibility of being true, it's still funny.
You think it's like somewhere between, 1 in 4, 1 in 5, that Michelle Obama is actually trans.
Well, I mean, yeah. Have you seen like the lady boys from Thailand and stuff like that? I mean, it's
Hmm.
totally possible. It's totally possible that you can be fooled. Sure. I mean, I haven't been fooled too many times, but I'm not saying it's impossible to fool me, but like it's that's what's funny is it's so ambiguous. We have no way of knowing. We just kind of go on these these little jokes like there's a picture of her standing with a bunch of other women and she's like a head taller than all of them, and conservatives will make a meme saying, "I never noticed how large he was." Just little things. It's like nobody's saying it 100% like he's a man. They're just kind of like
But
pointing at
yeah.
little things, saying, "Hey, this bulge seems a little weird," or the broadness of her shoulders seems a little weird. It's just the whole joke is like seems a little weird. Like that's the gag. That's the joke.
So yeah, I mean, this is fascinating for me. I'm learning a lot. Um,
Yeah.
so so the so from your perspective, it's like it's a pretty it's a pretty reasonable. It's like a if you roll a six-sided die, it's maybe more likely than getting 1 in 6. It's like a decent probability that that's actually the case. You're genuinely considering whether Michelle Obama actually is trans. It's not even like, oh hey, this is like there's like this one thing that the shadows on her face make her look kind of masculine, like in this one photo. It's like, no, really, she actually might be.
No,
Um,
see, the joke doesn't hinge on believing that she's 100% a man.
no, I wasn't
Man.
even. It
Yeah.
actually hadn't even occurred to me that it was 100. I was assuming
No.
like 0.01%, but you're saying like 20-30%. That's actually, I was actually really far off from my assumption of where you were at on thinking about that.
Yeah.
That
I
it's actually
mean,
way
me
higher.
personally, it's funny to speculate because there's so many things you could point at to be
Hmm.
like, huh, that part of her is kind of manly, or this picture of this dude that Obama's hanging out with in his 20s does look a
Mm.
lot like her. Like just the things you could point at and speculate. That is the joke.
Hmm.
And it's funny because you could find people find different photos or different little factoids or things they could point at to keep making the joke without saying 100% with
Hmm.
100% certainty that, oh, she's definitely a man. Like nobody's saying that, right? Like
Hmm.
it's the speculation
No.
that.
Yeah, I knew that the joke wasn't, oh, she definitely is a man, but I didn't
Right.
realize. I didn't realize actually that part of the joke was like, I think she actually might be a man.
Right.
It hadn't occurred to me that you might actually really think that she actually is trans.
There's a
Which is
chance. Yeah.
interesting.
I can never be foolish to rule it out completely because
Mhm.
there's no way to know, right?
Yeah. So what would that mean? What would the result say? There was some leaked DNA test and it was verified. Like not like the just just out of curiosity. Do you think there's a 20%
Okay.
20% chance that Barack Obama is a Muslim? I'm just curious, or that he's not born in America, or any of those things.
I don't. I don't really. I don't know. Like I haven't looked into that. I
Hmm.
mean, we would have probably some proof of it somewhere.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay,
he
that's
has
fine.
a birth
Yeah.
certificate.
I was just curious, but
Yeah,
if you found like some kind of
I'm just saying.
verified,
But
uh,
like one thing conservatives bring up is like, hey, you
mhm,
ever notice how there's no pictures you could find of Michelle Obama pregnant?
mm, interesting.
That's like
Um,
that's one thing that they'll bring up, and it'll be like, it's
hmm.
mighty strange, isn't it? And then that continues. Like little things like that are all kind of thrown together in this stew that is the Michelle Obama, Michael Obama joke.
Hmm. So let's say that there was some leaked but verified birth certificate for Michelle Obama and a DNA test, showing the presence of a Y chromosome, and you're saying, oh, this person was assigned male at birth. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's actually literally true. What would the result of that be? What would, like, yeah.
I don't know what the results would be, but my personal reaction would be I would think it would be hilarious that they would have to go as far as to produce, proof that she's a woman.
No,
Like
no, no,
that
no,
they.
no, no, no. I mean, if the opposite came, if it turned out that she has a Y chromosome and that she was assigned male at birth, so
Yeah,
if the
but
joke were true, if the joke were actually correct, and she
oh, I
actually
see.
were assigned male at birth, and she
Uh-huh.
transitioned.
Okay.
If
Yeah.
if the joke were, if that 20-30%, whatever it is that they are putting out, if that
Out
actually
100%.
does, if that actually is shown to be accurate, what would that mean? Like, what would that um
It would just, it would just make the joke even funnier. I mean,
mhm,
it would be so funny that we're like, a lot of people would be like, "Damn, I was just capping," like, and
mhm,
then, but like I've had that sensation before where I was like, "Wait, what the fuck? That is true? I was
mhm,
just joking," and then I'm just like dying of laughter because I was like assigning it as a joke, but it was
mhm.
actually way more truthful than I, you know joke out to be. I guess
Yeah.
that's my reaction anyway. I
Mhm.
don't know what you were looking for there, but
Well, I
that's
mean,
just how I was.
I can understand, like, oh, hey, I speculated wildly about something and it turned out to be true. I mean, that's always fun,
Yeah,
right? But I guess I'm
yeah.
saying it's like, would that change anything about how you see Michelle Obama or Barack Obama or anything? Like, would that affect anything? You're like,
It wouldn't.
oh, it is true. Okay,
No, it wouldn't be that surprising.
it wouldn't be that surprising. Um,
No.
hmm. Okay. So you would just be like, yeah, okay, I knew it all along.
Yeah, it'd just be like big, big.
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
would that, I don't know, like, would
I mean,
that,
it would
would that change anything about how
produce
you
a
see
whole
Michelle
lot of.
Obama or Barack Obama, or you're like, oh, one of our first ladies is trans? Like, okay, that's interesting. Like,
The first thing I would do is go to Twitter and just like enjoy all the memes and just look for
mm-hmm,
all the comedy. Like that's what
mm-hmm.
I would do.
I
It
mean,
would
I
just be
guess
one of the funniest things ever.
here's the question. I feel like I feel like I'm missing some pieces of this. I wonder if you can help me out.
Okay.
If you're walking somewhere in public and you see somebody at a cafe and you're with your buddies and you're like, "Oh, hey, that woman looks kind of mannish. I wonder if she's trans." And then you end up sitting at like a nearby table and you overhear some piece of a conversation and you're like, "Oh yeah, they are trans." Uh, would that be hilarious?
No, not as well. I don't know. Probably not as hilarious as this
Mm.
because um, it would just be like, okay, I saw. I don't know. It wouldn't be a very big deal.
It'd just be like, there, a trans person exists, right?
Yeah.
Um, so why is it hilarious to think that maybe this particular person might be trans?
You had to live a lie and pull off a huge act in order to get elected twice.
Um, sure. Yeah, I mean that would be like a really. Uh, I mean, what would that be like to have to lie? I mean, do you think that some people might not vote for Obama if they found out that his wife was trans?
Yeah, it'd be pretty safe to say that it would affect him. But people can get thrown out of the race for smaller reasons than that. Like if
Hmm.
you're not a Christian, it hurts
Yeah.
your chances.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
So if somebody well, okay, let's say he was a Muslim and he knew that he wouldn't be elected if people found out and he had to lie and he's like, I genuinely want to do good for the republic, but like I know that people won't accept this. Right? I mean, I wasn't alive really for this, but I know there was a lot of hubbub around JFK being Catholic. That was like a big deal. I feel like there
Yeah,
wasn't
right.
too much around around Bernie being Jewish. I feel like that wasn't actually a huge deal. But if somebody named Barack Hussein Obama were Muslim, they probably wouldn't have good odds. Um, but let's say that you did have to hide that. That would be a harrowing experience for you, right?
I wouldn't. I would not give that person any type of credit or say that they were. I mean, I would just that person is just a liar in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion because
Sure.
like I give a lot of respect to people like Vivek Ramaswamy,
Mm.
who he ran as a Republican, and during a town hall, people asked him like, someone asked him like, do you think you're the best person to, you know, try to reinstall Christian values into this country and blah blah blah. And then I really respect that guy because he gave an honest answer. He said, you know what,
Mm.
to as far as Christian values, I'm probably not the best person because I'm a Hindu.
Mm.
And
Sure.
he said, but I respect his answer was basically, I respect what a Judeo-Christian society has built, and
Mm.
I appreciate it because it allows me to be free religiously, and these ideals I would defend and hold up as president because religious it has brought my life great value to live under a Judeo-Christian society.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something he's not. He said, I am not personally a Christian, but I would definitely uphold the principles of Christianity. And if those principles are built within the country, then I support that as well. Like he gave an honest answer there, even knowing that being,
Mm-hmm.
Hindu would hurt his chances. And I think that's just a better way to live. I don't believe in duping people or lying to people to get into office. It's just something
Sure.
I have moral qualms with.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I imagine if Barack Obama lied about being a Muslim and pretended to be Christian to get the office, even if you know he had otherwise the best intentions, and he thought it's kind of a silly thing that people want me to be Christian to vote for me. I'm going to sidestep this, but otherwise I'm going to do a great job in office. I feel like you might have a reason to be, not just think less of him, but feel genuinely angry that he
Sure.
lied to you, right?
Well, sure. Even if I was a Democrat, I would be upset with him because now they can be the Republicans can say, see, par for the course, another lying Democrat.
Yeah.
It just makes my
Why
side
is
look
it
bad when I have a liar?
Yeah. So why is it that if you were to find out that Michelle is trans and I guess hid it from you, why wouldn't you be angry? Why would that be funny? Shouldn't you be
Because
angry?
nobody was asking like, hey, are you a straight man? Are you a woman? Like nobody was asking him those questions, right?
Sure.
And so there's nothing for he never lied about it because no one was ever putting pressure on him the way they were pressuring him about being a Muslim or whatever.
Sure. Being a Muslim, being an American, all the things that the rumors Donald Trump started about him.
Right. Nobody accused him of being gay or being. I mean, it wasn't important
I feel like
at the time.
I'm trying to think. I feel like some people probably, but yeah. So that's interesting. So if nobody asked him about being a Christian and he was a Muslim and he he kind of let people think whatever, then you wouldn't be mad. It was just if he specifically lied.
No, if he lied about being if he lied about being a Muslim.
Well, if it was never asked, if nobody ever asked him and he never specifically set the record straight.
Okay.
Then
then
you wouldn't be mad.
That would be like nobody can be mad that he lied because nobody ever asked the question.
So if somebody asked Barack, hey, We see that your wife has kind of broad shoulders. We don't have any
Yeah,
photos of her pregnant.
yeah.
Was she assigned male at birth? And he lied about it. You'd be angry, right?
If the truth came out that she was actually, a man, I wouldn't necessarily be angry. I would
Hmm.
just be like, well, you're a liar.
Wait, but why wouldn't you be angry? That's what I'm not understanding. Why is this funny, but the other one you'd be angry?
I never
Where's
said
the
I'd be
disconnect?
angry.
Well, you said you'd be
No, I
angry
never.
angry if he lied about his religion.
No, I wouldn't be angry, but I mean, you're like, I would understand if people were angry
Okay,
because they
sure.
voted for him. Yeah,
Okay,
I
would you
personally,
understand if
yeah,
people were angry that he lied about what sex his wife was assigned at birth? You would understand if people were angry because he lied.
yeah.
Um, but you wouldn't. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what you would feel, what you
Okay,
believe.
so
Yeah.
let me clarify. I would be angry that he's lying to the people that voted for him.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Sure, it would be the same thing. Um, you just shouldn't. You should be as honest as you can. I know not everyone's perfect. That people lie.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when you're representing your country and these are values important to the people who are
Mm-hmm.
voting for you, then you should not lie about those things.
Mm-hmm. Well, would you say that for both things or just religion? Because it seems like there's a lot of
I,
Republicans and
I
a
would
lot of
no, I would say
Republican
it's both
politicians who
things.
say, right? I mean, at CPAC, the statement of we need to completely eliminate transgenderism from public life, and it's saying, oh my God, the president is married to a transgender person, and a transgender person was the first lady. This is a huge deal. This is bigger even than the Muslim thing. I can imagine some people right now saying that.
So for me, what would get me angry or upset is merely the lie. It wouldn't matter what the lie is
Mm-hmm.
about. It's the fact that you lied. Period.
But I still feel like we haven't gotten to the core of like what is it about this thing that makes it funny rather than I'm just curious or I just don't want to be lied to. They should just be truthful. Where's this like where's this there's some kind of like mischievous pleasure that it seems like you're able to
Sure.
derive from this like I'm kind of speculating about this person. I mean when I asked you about just somebody sitting at a table in a cafe, and you're speculating that they're trans and it turns out that they are, and you were saying okay, it wouldn't be that funny, it wouldn't be as funny as
Yeah.
Michelle Obama, but it seemed
Let
like
me
there was
let
a
me help
little
you out.
bit there was a little bit
I
in
can give
there.
you I could give you a great example. Let me help
Hmm.
you out. Maybe this will
Yeah.
get you closer to understanding. Do you remember? I forgot the name of this guy, but he was a very like very conservative, like anti-gay politician,
Hmm.
and he got caught in a bathroom stall or something with another
Yeah,
dude
I remember what you're
having
talking
gay
about. I
sex.
can't remember. Uh, I think that's
Yeah,
happened with a few different, but yeah,
yeah.
I know
So
who you're talking about.
that
Yeah.
that is hilarious for the same reason.
Interesting. Okay, I love that you said that. Right. So there's irony that somebody who is staunchly anti-gay, they say that it's bad to be gay. Gay marriage shouldn't be legal. Being gay shouldn't be accepted. But he's gay. There's an irony in that, right? What
Yeah,
he's saying to everybody in the world and what he's advocating for politically is against his own self wishes. It's almost like an Uncle Ruckus situation, right? There's an irony
right, right.
between that and that. So that's my question: is where's the irony between, I'm Barack Obama, I'm Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
If it were the case that Michelle Obama is trans, what's the irony? What's ironic about that?
So the irony part is the whole facade, right? The kids, the dog, the whole image that they try to paint of elect me because look at me, I'm this smart, progressive black man, straight black Christian man with a family. I love family. You know, I'm all about family values, this and that. So it's like we've been sold a caricature of who Barack Obama really is, and it turns out he's actually kind of like represents the fringe of the you know, like the person we would not vote for, because it's like, okay, if I'm a family man, I want to vote for somebody who is also a family man because they understand me, right? I'm not going to vote for a gay guy who had a you know, surrogate parent and is married to a man like that. You know, you vote for people who represent your values and your interests. So that he put up this whole act, this whole facade, and, you know, the irony there is, like, you're not any of the things we voted for.
I mean, why is somebody not a family man if they've been married to the same person for forever? They have 2 kids and a dog. I mean, you know, if it's the case that
Traditional family man.
Sure.
Not the fringe version. I'm talking about the most common version that you find, the one that whose votes matter because you're going to get more of them. So obviously, why if that's the case, like, oh, why does it matter if it's this? If he's a gay person that's been with the same person and they got kids, blah blah. Okay, if it matters, why lie about it?
I mean, it
Right?
kind of sounds like what you're saying, and I don't mean this in terms of any way that I'm trying to put words in your mouth that are like derogatory or anything, but just to try to put it in like the barest, plainest way. It's like he sold himself as like a boring, normal guy, but actually he's some kind of freak. That's what it sounds like what you're saying boils down to.
Not a freak, it's just that he's somebody who's...
Well, he's not a normal family man in your words, right? He has a family, he's married to a woman, and he has 2 kids and a dog, right?
But none of it is real. It's all
none of it's real. I mean, the dog isn't real. It's a real dog. The kids are real. They're real kids. I mean, the marriage is real.
It's not real. Just like the whatever, the Bundys aren't real. They're just a family on television.
Wait, do you think that if Michelle is trans, he like doesn't love her, or they don't love their kids, or they don't love their dog?
You heard me say that? Is that what you heard me say?
Well, you were saying that you were comparing, maybe I misunderstood, but you were comparing it to a TV show, that this is like a fictional, like this is just for like audience facing, whatever. This is just what we're projecting into the world, but internally.
How could we ever know? You lied about one thing. How do we know the whole family isn't a lie? How do we know that this is all just put together, like, and that the kids aren't yours at all, that they're completely adopted,
Well, I mean...
Or they got to, like...
Do you think if somebody, just on that point, do you think if somebody adopts kids that they don't love them?
I keep hearing these things that never came out of my mouth. It's kind of weird. It's like I say something, and then I hear this... I expect to hear an echo come back, but instead I hear like a completely different voice saying a totally different thing. I wonder what they call that. I think
so I was tying together, I guess I tied it together wrong, but you were saying maybe they're adopted, and you were calling into question whether they actually love those kids. And I was tying those together.
Let me make the statement so that you can reply to what I am saying. So what I am saying is that you've built this farce that you're just a regular, run-of-the-mill, cis male man with a woman for a wife, and you got 2 of your biological kids that she gave birth to. Like, what I'm saying is that if all of that was not true, then you are just a liar, and that, one thing, you're a liar, which is a principle that your leader should not, you would like your leader not to be a compulsive liar or to lie about something that big. The other thing is you got elected on the lie. So if you get elected on the lie that you're just just a regular straight Christian family man
Mm-hmm.
with a woman for a wife, yada yada yada,
Mm-hmm.
and people voted for you on those assumptions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And none of them turned out to be true. Well, then you just duped everyone, because you know for a fact they wouldn't have voted for you otherwise if you had just like come clean and told the truth about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know that the country, as it is right now, is just not ready to elect somebody like that. Not for any ominous reasons or for
Mm-hmm.
any bad reasons, but you typically want to elect somebody who is aligned with your values and who could push your policy prescriptions forward. Um, if you get somebody who's completely acting like they are one thing and they are not,
Mm-hmm.
that's 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 what I'm focusing on here.
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to bridge the disconnect between what pieces of that I would highlight from the pieces you're highlighting, and trying to build that bridge to your perspective, so I can understand where you're coming from, because it's a different perspective, but that's the whole point of this channel. That's the whole point of the conversation, is so I can understand a different perspective than my own.
Okay, let me paint it a little clearer. So, like some of the policies that Obama might have done could have gone against the interest of the country, and then when you find out that, hey, he's actually not who he represented himself to be, then we were like, well, then we would have never voted for him, and then a lot of the things he did wouldn't have been done, because if he had come clean as who he really is, then we would have known better of what policies he would have enacted.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you know what I mean, it's kind of like, why disguise your I mean, obviously to get elected, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, it's just a dirty way to do politics, in my opinion, to paint a whole facade about your family just to get elected. Yeah, I don't know. I don't approve. I disagree.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. There's a question from the chat. So, if a politician lies to the American people to get elected, you have a misapprehension of what their views are that could affect their policy, all these different things. They're just lied to you. They're like a person without integrity, whatever. You find this out, but your first reaction is, that's hilarious. Yeah, that's, again, why would that be funny? Why is that the reaction?
Well, it's funny because he's no longer the president.
He's no longer I mean, he would have to be impeached and stuff like that, right?
If he was still the president.
Oh, you mean now he's no longer the president? You mean?
Yeah, now he's no longer the president. If he was, we're making this joke, post however many years it's been since he was president,
mm-hmm.
and that's why it's funny.
I mean, I remember people joking about it at the time. Absolutely, I remember people joking about it. Yeah.
It's newer to me then, I guess. But the thing is that if we found this out, if it turned out to be true during his time as president, I'd be much more upset about it.
You'd be angry, and it wouldn't be funny, or it would still be not as funny, but. Oh, sorry, you just cut out for a moment.
No, it would be funny, but then you could also be upset about it, about the fact that he lied. You could hold two things.
Sure, of course, yeah. I mean,
true. Yeah.
But I still, okay. So I get the anger. President lies to you, misleads the American people about some aspects of his personal life that might be very major. Sure, angry, of course, makes sense.
He lied about his very identity.
His very identity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's like his very identity. He identified to us as a cis Christian man.
Well, he's still
with
cis. He's still Christian. It's just you. So you put him as more gay than straight. I'm actually curious right now if it turns out that Michelle is not trans and she's just a cis woman. Do you still think that he's like kind of gay for liking her because she's got like kind of broad shoulders? She's taller than some other women. She has toned arms.
I mean, you could say she's kind of ugly or whatever, but you can't make fun of him for being gay at that point.
Okay. You can't make fun of someone for being gay if they're married to a cis woman and they're cis.
Well, yeah, that'd be kind of hard, right? I mean,
sure. But
it's like after I got married.
Okay.
Before I got married, me and my friends used to make fun of each other, like call each other gay all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, it was funny because like one of my friends tried to make like a gay joke at me or something, and it's like I'm a married man with 2 kids. And what my other friend told the friend making the joke, he's like, you could make fun of Joe for all kinds of things, but being gay is the one that you're just gonna miss 100% of the time on, because it's like that's the one thing we know for sure he's not, right?
Well, he's like wait a minute, married with kids. It turns out it's not so solid, right? As we just found out.
They know me. I know that. I'm just saying they know me well enough to know I'm not putting up a front to like, you know what I mean? Like they know I really married my wife. They know I really had kids. Like there's no way I could fake it. There's too much evidence of me, of it being real, that I'm actually a cis, man who who had kids the natural way, Yeah, it would just be it's a very hard sell at this point to make a gay joke about me because of where I am in life now.
It's interesting you say that because, I mean, you're saying that about Barack Obama, who apparently, seems to be in the same situation.
No, but with the difference is within my circle of friends, that's what this joke is in relation to within my circle of friends that have known me for like 10 plus years, right? So it's like at that point you know me intimately enough that a gay joke is just kind of like absurd, or wouldn't even like, if you want to get a laugh or a reaction from a joke about me, you got to come up with something else, because everyone else in my close-knit group is like, yeah, we know Joe too well. He's definitely not gay, Whereas this other example, we're talking between Barack Obama and complete strangers.
I mean, and it's interesting.
It's very easy for complete strangers to like, see, a complete stranger can make a gay joke about me or think I'm gay, because they have no idea who I am, right? But if a close friend of mine tries to make a gay joke about me, my other close friends are going to look at him like, yeah, try again, buddy. Like,
I mean, why would somebody make a gay joke about you? Is that?
That's what straight guys do. They riff on each other. It's kind of like removal. We do it in all kinds of ways. Like it's basically demasculate. There's a word for it. It's kind of like
emasculating.
Yeah, emasculating. That's like a way that we give each other shit. It's part of male bonding.
Is it? I mean, look, I'm not gonna pretend that I don't understand what you're talking about. I'm just, this is a place to investigate, the things that we see every day, and maybe we don't look too closely at them. That's the only reason. I'm not saying, hey, please explain to me what, I'm an alien from another culture. I don't know what you're saying, but I mean, do you think it's factually the case that like, you can't be masculine and gay?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that is the act of what we're doing when we're making fun of each other for being gay. Like, because when we make fun of each other for being gay, we're not talking about being the top, right? We're not talking about the bear who's like the Paul Bunyan looking biker gay. We're saying you're the bottom. You're the guy who wears the skirt, or the guy that,
Huh?
yeah. Like, we're not saying you're the. It's kind of like when we make fun we call each other woman. Like, what are you, a girl? Like the same thing goes when we call each other gay. We're like, it's the same spirit. We're like saying, we're not saying you're the top gay. We're saying you're the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, this is kind of part of what like yeah, what Lilith and I were talking about earlier today. I mean, it's like this kind of duality of masculine as penetrating and feminine as being penetrated, right? This is the kind of yin yang of a very like patriarchal worldview, that everything is like this or that, and if you're one thing, you're this. If you're one thing, you're that. I mean, do you think that there are? I mean, just to pull that onion one layer deeper, are there masculine bears who are bottoms?
I don't know. I mean, that doesn't concern us in the way we socialize with each other.
Just to clarify, do you mean we like you and me, or we like you and your friends?
Like my friend circle, like when none of that is a concern to us. Like we don't think about it that deeply.
Sure. So so it's like you're feminine because you're gay, and when I'm gay, I'm thinking of a bottom. But even if it's factually the case that as a bottom you could still be masculine, it doesn't really disrupt like the functioning of whatever the exercise that you're doing.
Yeah, because in our world, because we're always thinking, because in our world, a straight cis man is always going to be more masculine, more manly than, whatever a masculine gay person.
Sure. Even though you recognize that that's like not objectively the case, that's still like kind of how you banter.
Sure.
Right. I mean, it has to be the case that there's a lot of like bottoms, right, who are more masculine than a lot of like straight cis men. Like that's just got to be the case. I mean, Buck Angel is biologically female, and he's way more masculine than like almost every like het cis man, right?
No, you could never. No, well, the thing is, the way we see it is, you can never be more masculine than somebody who has, been the penetrator.
Sorry, you mean then been penetrated, right?
No, then
you can never wait. Being the penetrator is the most.
The one who's doing the penetrating is always going to be more masculine.
So straight men and gay tops are equal level masculine?
No.
Okay. But they're both penetrating.
If you're penetrating a woman, you're automatically more masculine than the one penetrating a man.
Why? Well, I'm just is that something that you can explain at all? Is that just a ground truth of the universe?
We could go through. Yeah, that's just when you talk about the alpha male in nature. What are we talking about?
We're talking about something that again is factually not real, right? So, what are alpha males, right? Alpha males are thinking of wolves, right?
No, we could. There are a bunch of species where we do recognize an alpha male amongst the species.
Okay. I was thinking wolves is like that's the one that comes up like first, right? In terms of no, you don't think of wolves when you think of what's like a different.
Wolves aren't the ones that automatically like come to mind. I'd probably think more about maybe lions or gorillas. And gorillas is pretty easy because
Mm-hmm.
you got like the big silverback, and he's kind of like he has the privilege of mating with most of the females.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I mean,
the alpha.
yeah, but that's interesting because if you're married, you're only mating with one person, right?
Yeah, sure.
So doesn't that make you like not that alpha compared to? I mean, my understanding is
Well,
that gay men like are relatively promiscuous and have sex,
yeah,
mate
but
with a lot of people. So wouldn't that make them the
even if I'm
alphas?
no, because
They're mating with more people.
no, because they're not. Those people aren't women.
Huh.
One,
Okay.
and two, even though I'm married, I still have a body count in my history.
Huh.
Yeah, so that definitely factors in.
So
So I could
whoever
say like,
has had the most sex with women is the most alpha.
no, not even just that. I could say ability. I could say that okay, um, I could, like I'm married, but I could still, like, women are other women. That doesn't me getting married didn't stop other women from being attracted to me. The only difference is
Hmm.
that I turned down those advances.
So other people trying to mate
But the
with
fact that
you
I could,
makes you more alpha, more masculine.
because in a way that's how nature works, and that's how it works in the animal world, is that the females see someone with superior DNA. They want their offspring to have that DNA, so that's who they feel that their future offspring are going to be, safe mating with, because they're going to have the best chance in the wild because they got the best genes that they could find.
Mm-hmm.
And us humans, something that both the left and right do with humanity, I find it kind of interesting, is that they don't think we're actually animals. I actually do.
No, that's not true. It's the religious people who don't think we're animals. No, of course
No,
we're
it's the.
animals.
Oh, I could show you perfect examples of where the left doesn't think we're animals either.
Um,
I
I
I could
mean,
give
sure.
you.
I'm happy to look at that. But no, I mean,
Yeah,
I've literally talked to religious people who are offended at the notion that we're in any sense animals. I don't think there's any left you could find who doesn't think that scientifically we are animals. They don't think that we're
oh,
fungi or plants, right? But religious people
that
will
would be.
literally say we are not animals. We're like a different thing.
Could I test that on you then?
Sure, please, yeah.
Okay, so when we say, imperialism and
Hmm.
stuff like that is like a sin on the left, right?
It's
Um,
you said a thing.
a sin. It's like
A
a
fin.
sin to, yeah,
Fin.
it's
I haven't
it's
heard
like
that.
a not a sin, but it's like
Oh, a
it's
sin.
like
I
a
thought you said fin. I was like, huh? I haven't heard that. A
no,
sin. Sure. Imperialism bad. I think that's a pretty
yeah,
that's a pretty standard lefty talking point for sure. Imperialism bad. Lots of people die. Lots of people get their liberties curtailed. Lots of bad
sure.
things. Yeah.
So let's say the conquistadors come over
Hmm.
and they see people eating other people, and they're chopping off babies' heads and letting them roll down the pyramids uh, to sacrifice to their gods and stuff like that. And if they just say, you know what, we think the human sacrifice has got to stop. Sorry, guys. Um, whoever continues these practices, you get in the firing squad. Or let's say you got the English, or like the white people that came to America. People say, oh, the land was stolen from the natives. You guys stole it, right? But how is that not just nature working itself out?
Um. Yeah. Can you connect that together a little bit? So you were going to ask me if I believe that humans are animals,
Yeah.
and you asked, you just verified whether lefties in general believe that imperialism is bad. I think that's a pretty simplistic way to think about anything. Personally, it's just bad or good. I mean, uh, in I think, more specifically, that imperialist projects from different nations um, have been ways to exercise power over other people against their will. And I think, in general, I think people should have like national and personal liberties. So that's good. But at the other hand, America is the result of imperialism, and I think there's some cool things about America. So I wouldn't characterize anything as simply just good or bad. But how does that connect to our humans and animals?
Yeah. So basically, if one species has the upper hand over another species and is able to dominate and subjugate that other species, how is that not just animals being animals?
What does that have to do with humans? There's no other human species, unless you're talking about what, like Neanderthals or other
no
Australopithecus.
We have different races. There's different races of humans.
Okay.
We're not the same.
Well, okay. So you're backing away from species, but you're saying race.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's different dogs, there's different cats. Like they're the same species,
different
but there are
breeds of
breeds.
human.
Yeah.
I mean, we can recognize, different things about people who, spent long enough as separated populations to have discernible traits, but I super don't understand how this connects back to. I mean, you're saying like we wouldn't judge a lion for killing an antelope. We wouldn't say that that's like
right.
a mean, morally reprehensible lion, right?
Right.
But we would say that somebody who murders another person, that's not great, right?
We would say that, but then you say that if a tribe, one tribe of people comes in and like takes over a whole nation from another, some other tribe of people that was already here, they condemn that morally.
Sure. Yeah. I think killing other humans is generally, I frown upon it. The killing of other people for personal gain, I'm against it. Yeah.
No, we're against that now because that's the rule of the world. That's how the world works today.
Sure.
But that's not how the world always worked. Might makes right was the law of the world back in the the old days.
So you're like a moral relativist, right? You don't believe that there's any one standard of good and bad. You think it's all relative in different times, different places. Those things can change. Maybe murder's okay. Maybe lots of different things are okay.
Yeah, I would never like look at the founding fathers and put them under the same lens as today and judge them by today's standards. That would be ridiculous.
Well, I would judge anything based on its context, right? So somebody who lives in America and owns, somehow manages to own slaves, it's, they'd have to go through a lot more than to do that in the 18th century, right? For sure. I mean, right? So there's different context, how far you would have to go to be able to do something bad. But, I mean, certainly murder was considered, a taboo in a number of cultures. Even, a few hundred years ago, it was still considered, maybe not as bad as today, but still bad to murder somebody.
Yeah, but if I go in, if I am a Spanish conquistador and all I know is like the religion I've been taught and basically has conditioned me to this worldview to where if I see people eating other people, I'm going to believe they're of the devil, and I'm going to want to wipe them all out and take their land from them.
Sure. I mean, let's be honest, right? They wanted to wipe them out and take their land and extract, silver and gold from them before they got there, right? They didn't show up a ton of conquistadors. Let's be friends with these. Oh my gosh, the Aztecs are doing human sacrifices. You know what? We've got to do the right thing and murder them, right? I mean,
Well, yeah,
we know that they showed
that?
up ready to kill, right?
Yeah.
That's not how that decision making flow chart went, right?
Yeah. What would be wrong with that, though?
So absolutely, I would put into context the fact that they were brainwashed to dehumanize other people and to
Oh,
value.
that's just not true. That's just not true. We've killed off this practice goes back so far. We've killed off other hominid species before there were just humans. Like
Mhm.
we used to coexist along
Yeah.
all these other hominid species, and we killed them all off. We
Hmm.
killed off all
Killed
the
them and ate
hominid.
them. Yeah, I know there's new evidence coming back and forth about exactly what those interactions were like, but humans share some Neanderthal DNA, but we also, it seems like, probably killed and ate them. And we may have killed and eaten other humans in 100,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago. I don't know.
Right. So why are we if we see humans as animals the
Uh-huh.
way I do, right?
Sure.
How can I assign any morality to when they come over and take over? Like if white people come to another
Uh-huh.
continent and they take that continent over, why should I assign any moral judgment there?
So, are humans still animals, or are we no longer animals today?
We are animals.
We are
That's what I
animals, so you
believe.
can't morally judge humans for their actions, right? Today.
No, 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 no. So
Hmm.
here's the we as a species, when we do things collectively as a species, it's harder to judge that species for wanting its own progress.
Well, wait.
But
So you're
we
saying
can
that
judge,
if so, uh, look. So
we
when
can
I
judge
say so, are you saying it's
today.
not to put words in your mouth? It's just to clarify individual things that you're saying. So you give a general statement. I'm giving an example that I think pushes back against the statement you're making. You're saying it's harder
Well,
to judge.
you gotta let me finish the statement
Oh,
before
I'm
you come
sorry. I'm
back.
sorry. I thought you were finished.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, no, no. So look, so let's say there are two different homogenous societies, right?
Sure.
And let's say the white people, or let's say the gray people and the blue people, whatever.
Uh huh.
The the gray people come over and they wipe out the blue people and take over the blue people's land, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in order for that homogenous group of gray people to have been that effective in taking over the land and killing off the other group, they need some social contracts amongst themselves
Sure.
within the group that they need to not break norms of,
Agreed. Yeah.
and that in which the group can function. Otherwise, the group falls apart.
Yep. Totally makes sense.
Yeah, they have that within chimpanzee communities. Like
Mm-hmm.
they go off and they're the only other species other than humans that gather into great big bands and travel, many miles to another chimpanzee territory and wipe out the other chimpanzees, in a big group. But within that group, they still have rules within the group. Like, hey, if you break these rules, you're not in the group anymore. We're
Mm-hmm.
gonna, tear you to pieces.
And so okay, just to clarify again, because I didn't get quite a direct kind of yes or no. Is this still the case now? Is this something that changed at a certain point in history? You're saying you wouldn't judge people now for acting in these ways?
No, because it's still happening today. We just do it in a less aggressive way.
Sure. But if it happened today, you wouldn't morally condemn it. If one homogenous group of people wipes out another homogenous group of people today, you wouldn't morally condemn that.
Well, here's the thing: is I am a Christian,
Mm-hmm.
and what it is to be a Christian for me is to fight against your nature, because
Mm.
the what it is your nature is that of the devil, is that to bring you to basically take away control from your mind and give all control to your instincts and your lizard brain, that would be going against your Christian practice, right? So that's the difference for me. But if we just judge people as animals, and if a lot of the left is anti-religion, then they should be more on the side of the case I'm making, that hey, if you just see one group of humans dominating another, you should be the one saying that's nature, and I should be the one having to.
That's a great question. So under your model of leftist people, they should be saying, oh, humans are animals, so it's just law of the nature. But they're not saying that. They're condemning really anybody killing anything. Is it possible that your model of leftists and what they believe when it comes to, whatever moral, ethical, spiritual beliefs, is that your model of leftists is a little bit flawed or is missing some pieces based on those unreconciled differences?
Here's what it is that they claim that they can get morality without religion. But that's a whole nother subject we can argue over, where it's like, okay, but clearly, if you dig back far enough, religion was the only place we had to get morality from. You had to do a whole,
Yes, so I mean, I do happen to be very interested in this kind of thing, actually. So we could do a whole stream talking about religion and morality and where do these things come from. But just to keep this a little bit grounded on where the conversation's been, and I'm guessing you don't have too much longer in your drive.
I'm pulled up to my house, actually. So.
Okay, so just. So you're saying that under your Christian worldview, you see human beings as inherently tending toward basically genocidal behavior, and that viewing us as animals, it doesn't make sense to condemn this because that's instinctual animal behavior. But your more kind of high-minded religious view of the world sees this as something to be curtailed. We can't just operate on this kind of genocidal instinct. We have to be more humanistic and humanize all people, even if they have different societies or look different than us or whatever. Right? Is that?
I wouldn't say humanize all people. There are definitely people I would condemn and not want to be part of my community.
Sure. So you can condemn somebody, but if you don't humanize them, you're saying that they're, just an animal that can't be morally condemned, right?
If you can't bring them over to your side through the logic of being if we have a society that benefits the most amount of people, like the most utilitarian society, and you have people who want to actively go against that society, then you basically can't. You basically have to throw those people out of your society.
So when you talk about society, maybe this could be the final question. I don't want to keep you from, getting home to your wife and kids, but when you think about this society and the people who, you're talking about basically people who are sabotage. You can't have people on the ship who are like poking holes in the ship, right? That's basically what you're saying. Like,
right.
When you're talking about that society and people who are sabotaging others in their society or the society at large, when you're conceiving of that, are you thinking about the community of Christians worldwide? Are you thinking about American society, Western society, or like a worldwide kind of like global universal society where we're all thinking about each other?
I'm personally more concerned with America because we are the ones that kind of set the trends and things for the rest of the world. Like you could find rock music all over the world. Like our music and movies and things like that gets exported more than we import, culture and music and movies from other places. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
have just a bigger influence. So we have to get it right here in order for our values to spread to the rest of the world. If we don't get it right here, then we're failing.
Mm-hmm. So, in your successful kind of like version, evolved, enlightened version of American society, is that one in which we're peacefully cooperating and ensuring human rights, like with in cooperation with every other nation on Earth and forming a human society, or is it one potentially in which we're as an in-group behaving well toward each other, but maybe genociding other nations? Which of those two scenarios do you lean more toward?
I would definitely not take war and domination off the table.
Oh,
There are some,
okay. I thought you were going a different direction.
no,
Okay,
no,
interesting. So,
no, I don't believe
yeah.
Jesus was a pacifist. Yeah, no, definitely not. There's no. I'm not a pacifist. If
Mm-hmm.
that's what you're asking.
So yeah, so I guess okay, this will be the final thought. I'll just leave you with this, which is my perspective, which is that
Sure.
for me, thinking about the broader global human society, because there's a lot of humans, we've spread out across the earth. There's really no other place to go for now till Elon Musk gets us all indentured servants on Mars or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? It seems to me that we kind of have this Earth that we have to figure out how to live together, peacefully enough on, and that the people who are open to the idea of domination and genocide of other groups, those are the people who are poking holes in their life raft. That's my perspective, and that's a humanist, maybe Jewish, maybe communist, maybe Christian. I don't know. That's my amalgam of ethics and morality put together. Maybe it's just a hippie worldview. I don't know. But those are my backgrounds.
I don't know. Let me see if I can recruit you to my side. Now, do you believe that the environment and the climate is important?
Yeah, it's that's where we are. Yeah.
To all of humanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we were to take that importance and we were to say this is absolutely caring about this is absolutely a matter of life and death, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then
for a lot of people, yeah.
You would basically be forced to go to war with India and China.
Fascinating. Okay. I know what you're saying. That's not what I believe. I'm happy to explain in any level of detail. I know where you're going. You're saying they pollute a lot. They're emitting a lot of fossil fuels and coal right now, right?
Not a lot. The most.
Yeah. Of course, I wasn't trying to underplay. I was, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I see where. So, is that something that you literally think that we should take the step to go to war, or is that slight hyperbole that you're saying, okay, this is really like the bigger issue? You literally think we should go to war with India and China?
If you can show me that that climate change and pollution, all those things, if you can show me that it is as important to our survival as however important if you paint the picture to me that is absolutely crucial that we do something about climate change, you're basically putting me in the tank and I'm saying let's fucking lock and load, let's go. What are we doing, right?
Yeah, I mean that's fascinating that if you were to accept like climate models, then you would want to literally go to war with China and India.
Let's fucking hit. Where's the nuclear football?
You would nuke
get it going. Yeah.
if you accepted climate models, you would want to nuke India and China. That would be your step.
If they didn't want to come to the table and at least get down to our levels of emissions or whatever it was, and they're just saying fuck you, we only care about economic growth and our GDP of our country, blah blah blah. What choice do we have, right? What choice do we have?
Wow, what choice indeed. Well, yeah, I mean, it's been great chatting. I feel like we have a lot of fertile ground to keep covering. So, if you're interested,
sure.
I'm happy to keep these conversations going.
Yeah, I'm game. I just, it's unfortunate because I'm usually free like around this time,
Mm.
and I know it's harder for you being on the East Coast. But I
Yeah.
mean, if we could work something out, or where you
We
have
can
like
figure.
a
I
day
mean,
off the next
honestly,
day.
this is not a terrible length. I mean, we've had two hours. I feel like every one of these has been productive. I feel like we've been able to get into a lot of detail on each of these topics.
Yeah. Would
Um,
you say is any of this kind of like new to you?
I
Would
think
you say I'm like a unique experience as talking to like a more conservative person, or?
um, it was new to me to find out that you placed the odds of Michelle Obama being assigned male at birth at like 20-30%. That was surprising to me. The rest of it I've mostly heard before, because I've talked to a number of religious people. um, Hearing more of your individual personal kind of experiences and reactions to things. um, I don't know if this sounds I don't know if this sounds bad, but I think some of it is closer to what I would have considered a caricature of a conservative person than I would have imagined.
No, you can't hurt my feelings. It's all fine. Like, yeah, I mean, some things are. I could see why you could see it that way. Sure, like
Mhm.
there's some parts of my belief systems that I would definitely say match up with a caricature of a conservative person
Mhm.
for sure. I'm not. I own that. I don't.
Mhm.
I, yeah.
um,
But
yeah.
yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. How much of a typical or stereotypical lefty would you say? Are there
You
things
know,
that are surprising that I've said?
no.
Mm.
I mean, here's an interesting exercise: is that it, we maybe we could save this for next time, but I could write down probably a bunch of your stances on a number of the most popular topics, I guess,
Mm.
and I would guess I'd get most of them right.
I mean,
I'm not
that
so
sounds kind of
sure
fun,
you could guess.
actually.
Yeah, I'm not so sure if you could guess all my positions.
Mm. I think the what is probably less interesting than the why. I think if we could guess each other's whys, or if we could fail to guess each other's whys, that could be that might be more interesting to talk about. Um, because he's kind of like, are you pro or anti-trans, pro or anti-gay, pro or anti-abortion, all these kind of like binary, whatever, uh, you know. But the reasons for somebody deciding um, to consider something in one direction or another, I think is a little bit more interesting. But yeah, hearing your individual first person perspectives on what it feels like for somebody to call you transphobic, or say different things like that, I think that's probably the most novel and interesting, because I could look up a poll of what a lot of conservative people believe, but hearing somebody actually say, this is what it feels like for somebody to say this to me, that's something I can't just read about, on some article. That's something that really has to come from a person. So thank you for talking. um, okay. Yeah, I mean that was that was very interesting. Yeah, I mean calling people ist is not a method to help people grow from antisocial behavior. Um, I mean, I'm surprised that he finds me so stereotypically leftist, because he said that most leftists won't talk to him and write him off immediately, and we've had at least, I don't know, 10 hours of conversation probably at this point. Um, so I think that's got to count for something.